Silicon Valley Bank has collapsed and federal regulators have taken control.
Trying to thin any sort of contagion effect.
Impacting tech startups, leaving customers in limbo.
Raising concerns about the broader economy.
The global financial system works as a network of trust. Banks are viewed as the safest way to store money, but what happens when the banks collapse? In March 2023, 3 American banks collapsed. The largest of them, Silicon Valley Bank, is one of the major lenders for startups in the world and holds money for 90% of American startups. Some well-known companies, such as Roku and BuzzFeed, went through moments of panic, not knowing if they would have access to their accounts. Any bank collapse brings a climate of mistrust and fear to the financial system. In the case of Silicon Valley Bank, also known as SVB, an entire global ecosystem of startups may be counting its last days.
A rough week for the banking
The
industry.
collapse of Silicon Valley Bank is causing shockwaves.
I have to do something different here.
But what is the relationship between SVB and startups around the globe? And why would the collapse of a bank, especially SVB, affect the performance of thousands of technology companies in the years to come? That is today's topic in our extraordinary video. SVB has existed since the 80s in California and has served as an investor for technology companies that transformed the world in the following decades. In addition to promoting American startups, the bank expanded its operations to finance technological innovation in other countries. Branches were opened in the United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, China, India, and Israel. The bank lent and held money for startups from around the world. But on March 10, 2023, the game completely changed. The collapse of SVB was the second largest bankruptcy ever in U.S. history.
As of this morning, Silicon Valley Bank,
The second biggest bank collapse in U.S. history.
But how could a bank that was among the 20 largest in the U.S. in 2022 be destroyed in a matter of days? The government is still investigating the specific causes. But the fall of SVB is related to the careless way banks deal with your money. That money you've been saving for years for your future may not be as secure as you think.
He said, take your money out of SVB, go into your account, take your money out as soon as possible.
Banks use part of their customers' money to invest in government bonds, stocks, and loans to generate profit. This relationship between what a bank has and how much it reinvests, it's known as LDR, loan-to-deposit ratio. The Federal Reserve requires banks to hold a certain level of reserves against their liabilities. Currently, the Federal Reserve requires 10% of a bank's demand and deposit. This means that if all customers decide to withdraw their savings at once, the bank will not have enough to pay. During times of stability, SVB reinvested its customers' money in long-term government bonds at low interest rates, something that was expected for that time. But with the pandemic, inflation, and an increase in the basic interest rate, SVB's debt securities were no longer attractive. Rising interest rates in the US and the UK also impacted the investments received by startups, which made fewer deposits in SVB. Without new deposits and with their capital compromised, SVB decided to sell some of their bonds earlier, and this is where things started to go really wrong. They were actually selling those bonds at a loss, and that loss was almost $2 billion. And to make things worse, the CEO of SVB asked the markets to stay calm. And this was a recipe for disaster.
Behind me is customers of Silicon Valley Bank lined up to make sure that they can get their money.
Customers rushed to withdraw their money and congested the bank's website. When a bank collapses, an international credit fund covers losses of up to $250,000 per checking account. In the case of startups, 90% were not covered by this insurance since they had much more money in their accounts.
I need money.
How am I going to live until the bank opens?
I got doctor bills to pay. I need cash. I can't.
President Joe Biden rushed to calm the American people.
Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe.
And the financial markets understood that a bailout was given to SVB. The American authorities eventually took control of the bank, even with the intervention of the American government, which guaranteed that deposits would be fully recovered. The collapse of the SVB represents a challenge to the global technology and innovation sector. Many successful startups in the world have one thing in common: money in the Silicon Valley Bank. In addition to facilitating investments for startups, it also served as a gateway to build relationships with other companies in Silicon Valley. In the UK, around 180 technology company leaders sent an open letter to British Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, claiming that the bankruptcy of the bank could cause a 20-year delay in the startup ecosystem. The SVB branch in China was one of the only ones to lend dollars to Chinese companies with business in the US. In India, many startups also had SVB as their only source of financing. The slowdown in the economy and high interest rates didn't only affect startups. At the end of 2022, the drop in post-pandemic consumption caused Silicon Valley giants such as Google, Meta, and Amazon to lay off thousands of employees. In March 2023, a new round of layoffs occurred. Mark Suster, technology investor and blogger, predicted that 50% of small and medium-sized companies in the industry would go bankrupt by the end of 2024. Tom Lovero, CEO of a large technology investor in the US, predicted what he calls a mass extinction event for startups and compared the situation to the financial crisis of 2008. The times of crisis and uncertainty have already been affecting the technology industry. But what is the dimension of this new global crisis? Which companies will survive and which ones will disappear from the map? And still, how many bank bailouts are governments willing to make in the name of economic stability? Good question. If you enjoyed this content, comment down below, leave your like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.